Kim Kent is back with us today. Kim, hello. Good to have
Hello.
you here. So Kim joined us back in July, which I can't believe it was
Are
that
you
long ago.
serious?
I just
Oh my
checked. Yeah, I just checked
God.
the podcast listing, and it was your episode was back in July. So Kim is a money mindset coach, and we've kept in contact over these last few months since Kim came on and did the episode with us. But I invited her back on here a few weeks ago, actually. I went overseas, so it was just before I went overseas, and we've scheduled in this call because well, she posts some very interesting things on her Instagram, both at work, like work, money, business. There's lots of stuff coming up, but also personal, I don't know, interest, beliefs,
Yeah.
opinions,
Conspiracies,
perspectives.
conspiracies, let's just say it.
So I was like, you did a story, Kim.
Yeah.
Um, you did a story in your Instagram account, and it was around the American election, I believe,
Yeah.
so beginning of November. And you said you were just chatting about it, and you said I should do a podcast about this. And so I messaged you and said, you can come on my podcast and talk about this if you want. I think this is really important stuff to
Yeah.
like bring to the forefront. And you accepted the invitation, and here we are. And now we're like 6 weeks later. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah. So what I knew we were going to talk about triggering things and just opinions. And look, I'll do my disclaimer now while I remember. We're disclaiming that this is purely our own thoughts and opinions and like thought leadership in that sense. Have we done research? I can only speak for myself to a degree, to not a degree, but it's just we just want to have the conversation and we just want to spark new ways of thinking or open different thinking channels, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a broader perspective of this. It's like your beliefs, opinions, your views on what's going on in the world based on the information that you have read, seen. But also there's this other piece, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this is like that whole idea of cancel culture. And if someone doesn't agree with the same thing as you, then you have to tell them to fuck off. Like, and that we can't, that actually doesn't have to be it. And just because I have a different perspective to someone else, it doesn't mean that I hate the other person. So, like, I
Cancel
think that
culture.
is part of the reason I would love to
Yeah.
have this conversation.
I don't know how many people in the younger generation to millennials. I'm a millennial. What's under that? Gen Z? Is it?
Mm, yes,
Whatever. So,
I'm a Gen Y.
no, Gen Y is the millennials. It's Gen
Oh,
X.
wait,
Gen Y is.
what year are you?
I know, it tripped me out and I had to look it up. It's like because it's around the millennial time, they renamed it. Well, we are Gen Y. I'm a Gen Y, but
Oh,
it's
you're a Gen Y.
millennials.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Oh, cool.
then,
I never knew I was
yeah,
a millennial.
there you go. And I don't remember the fucking years that it is, but I'm born 1991. I'm a millennial. Okay. And where was I going with this? Cancel culture. This actually came up. I like this. It's apparently like the Gen Z's having a whinge. Not like if you're a Gen Z listening, I'd assume you wouldn't be someone who would actually be a part of this cancel culture. I can't even say it. Whatever. But like it's because like they tried to cancel Eminem. Like the Gen Z's complained because it was not the millennials, because us millennials are like, fuck yeah, we love Eminem. And I think he said something in his recent, his new album he brought out. I think he's only released the Abracadabra song. I should know this. I'm like a diehard Eminem fan, but at the same time, like my husband is, so like I just like listen through him. But I think he gives shit to people like not knowing how to identify as male or female. And I know that's a touchy subject, but they tried to cancel Eminem. And it's like, if you wanted to try and fucking cancel Eminem for his opinions, you should have done that back in the 90s when he started. Like, he's just talking. Oh, it's hilarious. So, this cancel culture is coming from like a victim mentality of like, you can't say that, it's so offensive. It just doesn't work because it makes, if you're trying to cancel someone, you're thinking you're right and they're wrong, but they're right and you're wrong. So it's the fucking same thing. Like,
It's hard, isn't it? Because it's like, um, yeah, like you don't want to hurt someone's feelings or offend them, but like we need to draw the, I feel like we need to draw the line somewhere between where we can, well, it starts to come down to choice, right?
Hmm.
And pushing someone into choosing a particular belief and like if and separation or segregation,
Yeah.
where if you don't, as I said before, if you don't believe the same thing as me, then we can't be
That's
friends.
yeah. Well, that's what they're doing. I'm like, we can be friends because
Yeah.
everyone's got their own opinion. Do you know what? This start, I know this isn't, we'll get to the crux of, guys, what we're going to talk about is like the election, the American election, and all of that stuff. Um, but it became really prevalent, obvious. I don't,
Yeah.
prevalent, is that how you say it? In 2020, when, as if you're watching the video, my inverted commas, an accidental virus went on the loose. Woo. So, but the thing is, we saw it create divide because that's what was wanted. The more we can divide humans and push people against each other, the more power they have, right? Because we are stronger all as one. And we saw this in that time. And what was so beautiful is we had some friends who were like completely opposite beliefs to me. And guys, if you see where this is going, I'm a complete don't put anything in my body. I don't trust anything that the government says, all of that side of things. And we had friends who were like, lining up for their fourth, fifth jab, even though it's already been proven to not be safe. But they're like, we still love you. But then we had like we could just have different opinions. So that was really beautiful. And then we had the other side, which was like I was fucking demonized because I didn't go with the status quo. Like so I was getting cancelled from my family, I guess. You
Your
know, it
family.
was my family. I was the black sheep. Do you know what is so funny now? Because I know they wouldn't be listening to this. Now it's been how many years and all of the things that have been proven. If my ego so badly wants to be like, I fucking told you so, but I am of higher self and I am of love most of the time. And love at the highest level. Like, what is it going to prove if I had to go and treat them like they treated me? But yeah, I feel like that 2020, well, during that time, there was a big shit was happening to create divide. And if you didn't believe on what, like, you literally were one side, left wing, right wing, or whatever, one side, the other side. And it was horrible. Like, it just, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't talked very much to a lot of people about my choices, my family included, because of this. Because I was too scared to go there to have a conversation. As you, as you mentioned at the beginning, I'm not like massive on research or anything, so I'm not going to go and read a whole bunch of medical papers to
Yeah.
prove the point. But like from me, from my personal perspective, it's like, well, you know, I didn't accept the glucose test when I was pregnant,
Yeah, me either.
right? Because I didn't believe that I needed it. I don't
That
have
makes
a flu
sense.
vaccination because I don't believe I need it. And I was exactly the same before all of the controversy came out about like whether you should or shouldn't, or and everyone doing, you know, taking the vaccination, or a lot of people choosing to take the vaccination or being coerced, whatever you want to look at it. Before the coercion, I was like, I don't need it.
Exactly.
And so that it was like a no-brainer. But it gradually over time, you saw this change in what it was all about. Like if you, it was because you didn't care about other people and how selfish you were if you chose not to do it, right? And like you
Yeah.
said,
So I'm
it
so
created
fucking
a divide.
selfish.
Yeah,
I'm
and
so
so am I.
selfish.
And so am I. And do you know what I did? Like I didn't go, this is what I believe in, rah,
Mm.
rah, rah. I just pulled right back. And in fact, I've observed in myself over the last little while, I put up some really strong, like, just shut
Boundaries.
down
Yeah.
boundaries,
Yeah.
which was kind of a protection mechanism, um, for fear of being rejected by those other people that might not have agreed with me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that fear of rejection. The thing is though, and I need to say this, I'm not saying I'm lucky because I created my life, but we created a life where we didn't have to get jabbed for work. Like I had
Mm,
my mum
yeah.
and my brother and one of my sisters, they didn't want to. It's almost like they could tell something was sus, but they desperately needed the money.
Oh.
But they couldn't, they didn't have enough personal power. Like dad, my husband, he works for himself, but he couldn't technically go. He installs doors. He's a carpenter and he specializes in doors. And he's like, unless people wanted me over their house, but we were in a position where I'm like, well, you can sacrifice the income to not have to put something in your body that you don't want to do. So I know there might be, you might be listening and be like, yeah, I get you, but I didn't have a choice. That I agree with. We don't want to stay in victim of I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice, but I want you to see what's actually at play here. If you don't have a fucking choice, is it actually about your health or is it about control?
Mm.
So, which is what this is like the main theme of when we start talking about the election soon. It's all about that higher governing body that's not universe and God, not energy, like the human that's trying to have their control and create XYZ. But look, I guess I want to state this for the record because it just makes me feel better. When we got shut down and like you're just being selfish and you're going to make other people sick.
Mm.
I think I had COVID once. I never tested because my hubby tested because he was more like, I'm just going to test. It wasn't like we had it once. My family, everyone who's gone and got jabbed has had it so many times. They get it over and over again.
Mm.
My question will always be, and this is why I will not vaccinate my child. Why would I put something in my body that is not 100% safe? And it literally says it on the pamphlet. COVID didn't even have to, they literally were like, we're testing it out. We haven't done tests. It's supposed to be safe. And you shove it in your body. And the fact, even though we haven't necessarily done, well, I've done research on this, there are websites and platforms out there where you can actually go and see the adverse reactions to vaccinations. The government have to, by law, share that, but it's not promoted.
Publicized.
It's
Yeah.
not, yeah, so you have to be able to go find it. And then I know it's hard because I've had family say, like, my sister-in-law, she's like, she knows my stance on it all. And she's like, look, they just had a baby. And she's like, you just need to wait the 6 weeks because, my niece in her family died of whooping cough. So
Uh,
we're getting a whooping cough jab. And, when they see that side of things and it's a whole conversation and it's all based around, it's fear based. And like, I look at it, hundreds of years ago, we didn't get jabbed to prevent things.
mm.
And if we got sick, you got sick. Like, if we're going to get sick, we're going to get sick.
I
And
don't know. Like I was vaccinated when I was a kid, and actually I
oh,
vaccinated my children up until the age of 4 because I like
we didn't know then. I
didn't
was
really
vaccinated.
know any better.
Yeah, we didn't know better.
And I feel like I've always thought if someone chose, like I had a friend, who she's had her kids a lot earlier than me, and she chose not to vaccinate, and I was like, well, that's your choice. Like it was never a thing, but some people were really funny about it, and like I'm not letting her children near my children if they're not vaccinated, and I'm like, surely the child that's vaccinated
It's
is
meant to be safe. That's the
protected.
safe
That's
one.
the whole point.
Oh,
So how can they, like, it's the child that's not vaccinated that's essentially at higher risk. So
exactly.
I never got that. If I
Because it's
had
how
my
they
time
what
again,
they
I would
want you to know.
certainly wouldn't do it to my kids. But I was
Yeah.
talking to my husband about it the other day, and it was like, I said, it's like originally when they first invented vaccinations, the intention was pure. It
Yes.
was to help people. And like so many things, gradually over time, corporations, organizations, people who want to make more money start going, how can we make more money out of this? It gets bigger and corruption starts to creep in.
It's
And I
all money.
think that a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff with vaccinations that seem to be an issue, from what I can understand, is that they're adding things like heavy metals that
Mhm.
never used to be in them. So,
They're blending them.
it's like penicillin, right? Penicillin was mulled in a dish originally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't reckon they do it the same
I
anymore.
don't think so. It's all because it's cheaper to make a chemical one. But if you think
Yeah.
about it, even when we were kids, you'd only have one or two here and
Yeah.
there. Now, if I was to put my child on the program, she's having like in that 6 week one. There's like 9 or so different things you're vaccinating against. Now, there are studies to say each of them separately have a level of safety, but no one's testing when you jab all 9 of them into your 6-week-old bloodstream. And this is a triggering, take this as a food for thought, not I'm saying this is right. SIDS, sudden infant
Uh,
death syndrome. Humans, animals, things just don't die. To a degree, we don't just die.
mm,
Okay? Everything has the right to live energetically. Then one of the highest causes of SIDS is asphyxia, which is suffocation.
mm,
And then when you start to look at it, doctors and people will never say, your baby just had or your kid just had its jabs and a week later SIDS died. They won't ever connect those dots. But if nothing else was like everything else was fine, and you put something in the body that's literally every pamphlet, the doctors don't even give you the pamphlets anymore. I remember reading the pamphlets and it would say risk of all these symptoms like anaphylaxis, blah, 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 death. So there literally is the warning on there, but they won't say that the death is related to the vaccine. But I'm not trying to say it's obvious. I'm kind of am, but not saying that that's 100% the truth, my little. Anyway, it just, I
yeah, and
just,
it's not. This is not about judgment. None of this is
no.
about judgment of other people and what they choose. It's
Yeah.
about awareness and like you said, choice, and not being necessarily controlled
Exactly.
by a system.
Or that keeping you
It's,
controlled, that's keeping you in
it's the right
fear.
word, insidious. I don't know if it's the right
That's
word.
a word that I
Where
don't
it's
use.
just
So,
like, no, I don't either, because
oh,
I
what
don't
does
know
that
if it's
mean?
right. I'd have to Google it.
Yeah.
But it's like that. There's just so many layers to it. It runs
Yeah.
so deep. Yeah.
Hang on, I just need to change my microphone because I
Okay.
was playing with the microphone and I like to. All right. Am I still talking? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can play with this and not. Lovely. Okay. What? Let's get in because I'm like, now we've opened up this can of worms. Let's get to the big can of worms
The
that we were
big
talking.
can of worms. And again, this is the reason I asked you. I said to you before we hit record, I feel like I want to live vicariously through Kim Kent because um, you just say it as it is, and I absolutely love that. I'm a bit of a chicken, right? When expressing my opinion, I have actually, I think it's probably some kind of wounding, from being told to shut my mouth and
Yeah, sit down, shut up, do what you're told. I had all that too, and that's where it's scary because you have to break away from it. And I've
yeah,
pissed people off, I've lost people along the
yeah,
way, but you can't have a loss without a gain, and you either want to people please or please yourself. And it's like as long as you do it from love and do your best and stay
yeah,
true to yourself,
yeah,
we're here to break that
yeah.
stigma. Do you know what?
And I guess if something offends you, or
Yeah,
something offends us, if we are offended by something, then that is kind of like it's soil for contemplation, isn't it? It's like what actually
exactly.
is that's made me so triggered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, let's take a pause because.
All right. So we're going to get onto the hot topic that's on everyone's lips. We're actually a little bit delayed because uh, when I first, as I said, it was at the beginning of November. We're now in the beginning of December because it was around the election, right? The American election. I find it quite extraordinary how much of a global event this
I know.
was.
Yeah.
Like, given that it was an American election, and yeah, it's like center stage for the world, and so many people in the world are sort of saying, "Oh my God, what's happening?"
Exactly. Well, but America is the place all of our media really comes from America. Anyway, I actually thought about this, and I know it's quite global, but I think Europe and in the UK, they do have their own kind of bubble. But I think about it, America, like the reason they have Independence Day, right, is because they broke away from the Commonwealth.
Right?
And like we're all part of the Commonwealth. And it's so funny, interesting, whatever the word, ironic, maybe I don't know what the word is, but they're the one so independent and they're the one that's so powerful. When I like, isn't the whole point with like the monarchy wanted to keep us in the Commonwealth, so there's like all the control through all the countries and interesting. It's very
Mm,
interesting.
mm. Yeah. And like we're talking from a really a non-political stance, just a
Oh yeah.
couple of Joe Blows having a chat about what's going
No
on.
political background. I've recently learned some stuff, and I want to feed into this after we talk about the election, because what was actually happening in Australia, and I actually started to email some MPs for a current bill that I didn't hear anything. I'm pretty sure it hadn't passed, but we'll talk about that after, because I want to point out, especially if you're Australian listening to this, and we get so consumed by America. But it's
Mm.
so I put up a post. Let's talk about this. I put up a post, and I don't want to put up. I love being controversial, and I love being tinfoil hat. But I say I'm not a people
What's
pleaser.
the tinfoil hat?
Tinfoil hat. Have you not heard about tinfoil hat?
No.
It means like, where's it come from? It's like put it on so like the aliens or the whole can't read your mind. It's like it makes you like conspiracy. Like there's of course there's fucking aliens. If there wasn't aliens, how they even an idea? There's
AI
been
wouldn't
proof.
have, yeah, I feel like AI wouldn't have even been a thing if there weren't aliens.
Oh, I know, like that's we just have to open our mind. But we're in a day we're in an age of awakening. We're literally entering the age of Aquarius. Pluto has gone from Capricorn into now the 20th cycle of Aquarius, new age, all of that. But you're either super conditioned and you're stuck by that. And look, if you're in the baby boomer generation, I have a lot of clients who are in that and they're open, but not my family side thing. It's so stuck in a way. And the older you are, the longer you've had your beliefs running the show.
Mm.
So how aliens aren't real, the government has your back, or whatever you want to believe, it's harder to be a bit more open-minded because you've got to battle some beliefs that you've held for so long. Anyway, so where was I going with all that? The election. Oh, not into politics. Recently have tinfoil hat. I was like, where did this go? So I don't want to put up too much stuff. Do you know why? It's because I want to help as many people as I can with their money. And it's all about empowering them and breaking out of a system keeping them broke. And there's people out there who might not agree with me who I don't want to scare away
Yeah.
because I still can help them with their money. So look, I'm still people pleasing,
Mm.
right? But I put up a post Trump election and he got elected in. And all I put up was a picture of it. Like I was at the pub, it was on the TV, and I took a photo of it. And I was like, I am happy that Trump won. And not, I didn't say it's because it's Trump. Trump represents the party. And I said, because I truly believe like he can't be bought, like he has money, he doesn't need the money, he can't be bought. He is not controlled by higher world order. He's not part of the puppeteering. Well, he's not being puppeted, I don't know what the term is. And to me, it excites me that breaking the old chains of this higher governing body, I'm just interested to see. Now, then that's all I said. And then the next slide I said, I wonder how many people, followers I'll lose. I had way more people like agree with me, which is cool. I had a few people be like, okay, bye. I'm like, sweet. Like, and then I had a few people be like, how do you support someone who wants to take away female rights?
Mm.
Now, let's talk about this because I looked it up.
That's
It's not,
the one
it's,
thing that most people have said
but
to
it's
me as
all
well.
media. And all these women were Australian, by the way. I'm like, this actually has nothing to do with you because it's in America. Based off what I looked up, my research is that they have abortion laws in America that is based off the state government. They make the rules. So I'm assuming it's because there's certain states that say abortion is illegal. And so what he's saying is, I'm just keeping it to the states. I'm not taking over and making it federal law. It's
Okay.
the state law. So people, but the way the media, because the media is owned by Hollywood, which is owned by High World Order, media only tells you the narrative they want you to see. Oh, he's taking away human rights. I'm like, the Democratic Party was in before he came in, and it was already those laws. So weren't women's rights already fucking taken away? Like, people that's where people aren't seeing it, but he's being demonized in on
Mm.
a platform saying he's taking away women's rights. Now, I'm not against abortion. Before I had a miscarriage back in the day, if I would always been open to it if I wasn't ready. Nowadays, I would only consider abortion if I knew my child was like, for lack of a better way, going to be born a vegetable in like really bad conditions that they could still live, and I'd have to consider it. But I've had two miscarriages and I have a baby, so I wouldn't, it would be a lot harder. So I'm not anti-abortion. I'm not pro-abortion. I'm, well, I'm just like, do whatever the fuck you want. That's your choice. If you think of Australia, we have separate abortion laws in every state. Neither, none
Legal
of,
in some states
yeah. So,
in Australia. So, like, how are we any different?
and then people, I've had said that back. I'm like, I don't want to get into a debate, but hey, look, have you looked at it this way? And they're like, yeah, but that's making women who get raped needing to cross state lines. I'm like, that is really fucking unfortunate. Okay. But if he, like, there's just so much to it. But this is one part of
Yeah,
the whole election. But if the Democratical Party still got voted in, they weren't changing the laws, unless I missed something, because
right.
they already had those laws. So there's that part. And then they're like, but how can you support a rapist and a pedophile and I don't know, whatever he's been slandered for?
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. But how the hell is he still able to run for presidency if he's got all those claims and accusations against him? Doesn't make sense. Otherwise, he's the one when he was in power, or he was running, like the last time he was whatever it's called when you're in power, just your president. He exposed all the Epstein. What was the first name? Jeffrey.
Yeah, yeah.
Epstein, which is all like the child sex trafficking ring. He's trying to like expose all that because that stuff is all hidden by the other parties or all those people who are part of like I call it the high world order. You call it whatever.
Even with COVID, right? I
100%.
remember he stood up and he was like, I've just taken some ivermectin and I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah. And
They shut him down and said he was a lunatic.
look, he probably is a lunatic. He's a fucking president. Like all of the people with sane heads on them are like, I don't want to run for power, presidency or for prime minister because I got better fucking shit to do with my time. No wonder we always give shit to our leaders and think they're clowns. They're the ones actually going out there and becoming leaders. So if we really have a problem, get off your ass, go do what you need to do so you can be in power, or just sit there and have your opinion
Yes,
and get triggered. So do you see what I mean? Like it's about taking responsibility. But Trump is he's just the figure for like this is how I look at it, and it's really expansive, and you could think it's woo-woo as fuck, but it's all energetics. Everything is big. We're bigger than this fucking planet. Like there's a whole universe out there. He's just the face. He's just happened to be the person and I've heard him talk. I'm like, he can't even finish a sentence. Nor can I really. So maybe we're the same. He's just happened to be chosen, however it was chosen or it's happened. And he's representing a way to break the norms. Like he's reducing income tax. He's taking the fluoride out of the water. If you believe fluoride is good for you, like our water supply, our government is literally poisoning us. Fluoride calcifies your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is your connection to higher self, right? And so does coffee. I fucking love coffee. I am sipping cacao right now, but I do love myself a coffee. Like the coffee and fluoride calcify your pineal gland. We drink the water, we brush our teeth with it, and like the fluoride, and we're addicted to coffee, which is caffeinated, which is a drug, but that can be legal.
How about this? Like, because a lot of people be like, well, fluoride's good for your teeth. And there are countries that have banned it and it's been proven to be poisonous. And interestingly, my husband and I have had this experience recently where you go to the dentist and you decline the fluoride and they don't go, oh, why is that? You know, it's ever so good for you. They just go, okay. Because they know that it's bad for you, but they'll still if you don't
decline it, they do it,
yeah, no thanks, they'll just give it to you.
I know. See, my thing is, I do believe there's still studies to prove that it is like there's something to do with your teeth, right? It does support it. But on your toothpaste labels, on the packet, it says if consumed, call poison hotline. And I'm like, you don't even, like, you're consuming it, it's in your mouth. I don't use fluoride toothpaste, but when I have gone to the dentist, you put your thing in my head, I'm like, if I spit this out and hopefully don't absorb it, it's like that one time a year that I get hardcore fluoride on my teeth, but I probably would just now decline it. But it like, there's so many other things you can do to support your teeth.
There's more stuff. There's tooth, without going off on a tangent, toothpaste now that's got hydroxyapatite in it, which is remineralizes your teeth. It can actually reverse cavities. So like,
I saw a reel. It's always reels. You see things now because you see the interviews. And I saw this interview, something around that, but she
yeah,
talked really slow and I was like, this is boring me. But she was talking about how she had this stuff, it was that big name, and reversed her cavities.
hmm,
So there you
yeah,
go. We
there
need
you
a sponsor, like we need a company and so they can sponsor us while we promote them right now.
go. So
Back
yeah,
to Trump.
that
Back
was
to
like off on a tangent, but it was like,
it's relevant.
yeah, it's relevant because there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on that
Yeah.
is kind of like widely accepted, and
Yeah.
someone like Donald Trump comes along and goes, actually,
Because he's questioning the method. Yeah.
yeah,
Now look at it this way. I put this up after I did that story. I got so much response and I got in my car and I did like a talking story. And I was like, at the end of the day, if he's that fucking crazy and he's that bad, why the hell did America vote for him? And they don't have to vote. They choose to vote, which means he genuinely has to win votes. And when you look at it, I'm starting to learn this. You have like the red, they're red, and the Democrats are blue. The blue states are like your New York, your LA, California. And if you think about them, they are more progressive, and that's where a lot of money is. And if you do have a lot of like, it's the Democrats. It's like to keep the rich rich, and it's similar to the more money you have personally, the more power you have, the more freedom you have. Anyway, hence why I kind of do what I do to help you get in power with your money. But of course, it makes sense that they would vote the New York and Hollywood, they're going to vote towards the parties that's going to, it still supports them. But if you look at the screen, like almost every other state voted red, which is the Republicans. And what else, in my opinion on this is, yeah, you have to actually win the votes because in Australia, you get fined if you don't vote. You can go in and donkey vote if you want, like you can waste your vote. But over there, and what is there, 300 million people? Well, this is what I said. There's 300 million people. Take away 100 million for kids or like underage, and maybe, I don't know, at least half are old enough. 150 million people are old enough to think and choose for themselves. And they chose. They weren't coerced by you're going to get a fine if you don't vote. It was like they genuinely wanted to vote. So he got
mm,
voted in. And there's actually stats. I've been seeing this stats on all the past elections where um he's where from the year that Trump did win, where the Republicans did win, and then the year after the blue was high, so much higher. But there's been proof to come out that there was a election fraud. But no one fucking talks about it. The media doesn't share it because the party that they wanted in is in. And now they were like, this was such a big movement and there were so many votes that they couldn't get away with election fraud, and I can't even say it, election fraud, and they can't cut down. I'm thinking and getting so passionate that I can't get my freaking words out. What am I trying to say? Um, because of the new laws that came in because of the election fraud, it just made it harder if they were going to try and do it again.
mm,
That's where I'm going with it. So he genuinely got voted in. So if you actually hate him, one, he represents a party. He's not the person.
mm.
And he got voted. I'm like, the people spoke. And what can you do? Like,
What do you think about RFK? Like,
so
some
he,
people might not have even heard of him, and we're like, my husband and I, well, Darren especially, he kind of follows stuff a
okay.
lot more closely.
So
But
I know enough for it to support my
yeah,
belief on
yeah,
how I'm not like pro-Trump, hate the Democrats. I'm pro break the high world order,
mm,
break the systems that are trying to govern us and keep us little people small. And it just supports it because I kind of got the summary of the 3 hour Joe Rogan interview with Donald Trump. I didn't listen to 3 hours.
I haven't listened
And
to that.
JF, he talked about is it JR?
RFK, RFK.
I'm like JFK. RFK, that's a whole other topic too. Why do you think JFK got assassinated? Because he was trying to break shit back in the 70s or whatever it was. Like back then, they could assassinate easier. Anyway, RFK, he was part of the other party, an independent party, and he was like, I know no matter what, a Democrat or a Republic is going to win. It's kind of like here in Australia, no matter what, Labor or Liberal is going to win. or it's still in his time running, it's going to be that way. So he's like, I might as well join the party. Why try and beat them when I can join them? Join the party I believe in. And his views on health, and this is one of my big things, is about health, because that's my background, and how the fluoride in the water, they're just trying to poison you and keep you small and your vibration low. He's part of that, remove it out of the water. He's got to do with the health. He's
Mm.
all about the health. And then I've seen things shared where the old what I don't know what her title was, but
Oh, it's like the
chief
health
of
minister
health.
or something.
Yeah, she was this overweight, old, like this. I'm not judging. I'm literally describing. Everyone's just got to get that. Everything's a judgment anyway. If I tell you you look beautiful, I'm judging you, but you won't take offense. So everything's a judgment. But she's fat, overweight, looks unhealthy. Okay, and she was chief of health. And then you see the guy who's coming in, who's in his 50s,
Oh,
ripped.
70.
70, I didn't even
70.
know.
Yeah.
I was just like, because he looks
Yeah.
50 in his 50s.
Yes.
And look at him, and I'm like, that is health. Health isn't pop some meds from the pharmacy, big pharma, just want to control us. It makes so much money, blah blah blah. That's another rabbit hole. But it just makes sense that if RFK is coming in, it aligns with the party that's trying to break out of the old high world conditioning that's the high world order.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it makes sense. I could be sounding so fucking loopy, but I'm like, you could argue it, but I could always come back with that you can make sense, but does it not? You can literally see how it's makes
Yeah.
sense outside
And also,
too. Like,
I find it really interesting that we people, just people in general, we can have such different perspectives, and like you and I, we receive information in our social media feed, right, based on our interests. So
yeah,
it's really easy to assume that everyone thinks the same as us, right? Because we're getting fed the
the
same
same
content.
stuff. Yeah.
Just as someone who thinks completely opposite will be getting fed content that supports them. Where was I going with this? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that actually. But yeah, I've lost
Well,
my.
let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about this. During the day of the American election, a bill was passed in the lower party or whatever it's called in Australian Parliament, so not the higher, the main one. And the bill was to the Misinformation and Disinformation Act, which means us talking like this right now, if this was to get put on Facebook and the bill passed, we could go to jail because what they want to do is
Entitled to an opinion.
because when yeah, but they want to try and look out for people so there's not disinformation going around. So what they're wanting to do, if you think about it, is well, everyone needs the same information, but then they get to control the fucking information. And why do you think there's such an uproar? But that obviously isn't it interesting that passed in the lower house very fucking quickly while all the media was on the election. Now, this is where I was emailing members of parliament because I forget. I follow someone and she's like, you have to remember your local parliament, they're here for you, for the people. And it is so easy to think sometimes I don't have a voice because, I'm not in parliament. But that act, they're meant to be, especially in Australia's democracy, meant to be a democracy. We're meant, like, the parliament, the senators want to take on our opinion because they want to win our votes. So, I'm pretty sure the bill hasn't gone through because I haven't looked, but I would have heard more of an uproar. So it
Yeah.
needed to pass in the major house, and Liberal wanted to pass it, Labor 100% no, and then there was a couple of other seats. We just needed there was last two seats we needed, and I was emailing them like they would have got so much stuff to say either yes or no. But the thing is, if they're trying to pass an act where I run a business through social media, like if I get where they're trying to come from and how they're marketing it to try and keep us safe, but that's not what they want to do. They want to take away our voice, and we're not a democracy anymore, right? There's no
Well,
freedom
it
of speech.
starts to become like more like communism.
100% communism. Isn't like then if you look at it, isn't the whole world trying to fucking be communism because they're just the puppeteers. But again, it is conspiracy, but because it's not true, but it's almost like it makes sense. So that's why I question it. I'm like, doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me when you say shit like that. It doesn't surprise me. Makes
But
sense.
So, but this whole, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, even that is like, well, no, actually, you're just someone who's entitled to have an opinion,
Yes.
and it's not necessarily the same as someone else's, but you just get labeled conspiracy theorist, weirdo, fucking,
What's the like conspiracy definition, right? A secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. Boom, fucking nailed it. If you genuinely don't believe that there's like that's the whole thing. They're trying to do things unlawful but make it look good. Then there's the whole conversation with all the vaccine stuff, like Pfizer, owned by Bill Gates. He's not a medic. He just want there was I heard this, right? And again, is like hearsay, whatever when in court when it's just like it's not fact, it's just
oh yeah, yeah.
what's that word? When you but again it makes sense.
Speculation or
Speculating, yeah. Where they're putting things in mosquitoes, like they're cloning mosquito, like they can clone animals. They I don't know how to say it, and this way I could really butcher it. But when I heard it, I'm like, doesn't fucking surprise me that mosquitoes that go out that carry, but like either
I don't
vaccines,
remember about it.
or,
Oh yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
and like gets people. Because I'm like, what the fuck is the point for mosquitoes in the first place? Anyway, frogs can eat flies, like they do. I don't know, but then malaria is the highest grossing. This was probably pre-COVID. I don't know now, but I knew then that malaria is the globally the highest grossing or profiting disease because once you have it, you're sick for life and you're going to need to keep getting medication. Isn't that interesting? Also, how's this? I heard this saying, create a vaccine and you have a patient for life.
Ah,
Is what they're putting in you, and like there's no proof. But that's I won't we won't go down that. I listened to this really cool podcast, but it was on a DVD. It was like a recording of it, and it was these doctors literally slamming vaccines. But they're like, when we went to school in the like 70s, it was more you learned everything about it, and it wasn't trying to be as harmful. But now doctors are just being told they're good. Trust the research that you don't have to read administer it, don't even give the warnings and the side effects to your patients, but then you don't how's this the government and pharmaceuticals take like when you choose to get a vaccine or choose to get something they I don't know how to say it but they're like they don't take responsibility but you acknowledge that first.
you
Why
kind
would
of
I
it's like that disclaimer,
It's a
right?
disclaimer. So I just want people I want to empower women or people to think for themselves and question everything. Trust your gut because your gut feeling or your deep knowing will question things, but it's your head that's conditioned and might be going, oh, but no, but yeah, and that's fine. But actually, I don't want to go. I want to come back. I'm on such a tangent. I fucking love this. I'm just like ripping it. I want to come back to that misinformation bill.
Ah
Did you
yes,
notice how before that got passed, under 16-year-olds are now banned from social media?
correct.
Now,
Yes.
it has been to a degree, of course, it's fucking great. And if there's been people out there who've lost their children through bullying,
Mm,
all of that. And I think back, we didn't really have social media. And we were on the cusp. Social media, MySpace came in when I was in year 12, and you did feel depressed if you weren't in your best friend's top eight, or if someone moved you, it
right.
was all about. So I get it. But look at it this way, they're marketing it to you as we're keeping your children safe. Isn't it interesting that if that misinformation bill was to pass and you were to put misinformation up on social media based on what they say and you could go to jail, if you're under 16, they can't put children in jail. So isn't it, I'm questioning it, isn't it a convenient or a coincidence that it's like, let's just ban them because we want to bring in this misinformation act and it's too messy. If of course fucking teenagers are going to put up misinformation,
Right. Yeah.
they yeah, and it stops them doing that and stops them needing to do the whole jail thing. And anyway, that to me, that is my own thought base. It makes sense. I still believe it's still safe. Like I'm grateful. Like my child doesn't have to if she like wants to get in. I'm like sorry, like I love
Sorry,
you. It
that's
doesn't
so
protect
sad.
you. If anything, though, it's protecting you from being fucking absorbing all the shit that I don't want you to absorb. But I have to say, I was talking to a friend, she's like, we're here worried about the misinformation bill in the Trump election, where the misinformation bill was already passed in the UK
I was
as,
there.
And apparently, this is what was said, and I don't know like how true this source is, but to me, I'm like, makes sense. Wouldn't surprise me. Apparently, pedophiles are now out on the street because they need to make room in jails for people who are putting up misinformation. And I'm like, how the fuck does that make sense?
Yeah, well, there's a whole nother thing where pedophiles are like it's inappropriate to call a pedophile. Aren't they now need to be referred to as child attracted adults or something like that?
The fuck?
Yeah, that's from my husband.
Okay.
I don't like.
When you first said,
He goes down different rabbit holes.
I haven't heard that, but when you first said they're not allowed to be called pedophiles anymore, part of me, I always look for the positive. I always look for, okay, because there are a minority of the pedophiles out there who have had it put on them and they actually didn't do the deed. Okay, but this is the one area where you're guilty until proven innocent. I have actually had, I can't share too much, but I have had not first-hand experience, but very close second-hand experience where it was allocated, but then proven wrong, but then you always wonder, but then that person has, even though in court they were not guilty,
Mm,
it still creates an ickiness.
yeah.
And I get that for someone if you are actually weren't and you just caught the wrong end of the deal, or because the justice system is like you can. I've watched How to Get Away with Murder. I'm like, fucking hell, you can make the justice system work for you, even if you are guilty. But you know what I mean? So there is that level. But then there's the people who are genuinely the pedophiles. Why? Like, what are we hurting their feelings? They don't like. Do they not want to identify that as that anymore?
Well, it's more. It's like it's basically it's an identity. Yeah, I'm a child attracted.
But that sounds even
So,
worse. Maybe if
yeah,
you've done
but it makes it socially acceptable. Like
it,
it's like I'm not a he or a she. I'm a they.
I'm a fucking tree. Like,
I'm a cat.
you're
All
a
the
cat.
little furries.
I really hope. I'm like, Isla, you are female. You have a vagina. You can hook up with girls. You
Yeah,
can explore. You can fall in love with girls.
you're a
And
girl and you're
honestly,
not a
you're
cat.
a woman. You want to repopulate. You get with male. Do your thing. Whatever, but you're not a fucking dolphin. You're not a fucking plant. Like, and then this to me, my conspiracy theory on this is if children and people have identity issues, it is from their childhood because they didn't feel there is a generation of I don't know who it was because I grew up with a bit more old school parents, and I have friends who have parents 10 years younger, 10 years junior, my parents. But my age, well, I'm 33 now, we kind of don't really have, the only identity really is gay or like I want to be with women or I want to be, if you're a man, want to be with man. Then I feel like there's a generation below. It's the whole non-binary. I am I male, female. A lot of trauma has gone on. There's been some trauma. I'm just hoping maybe the kids now who are like 8 and up want to be furries and shit. And like my child's 2. I'm like, can she be the generation that skips that? Because you're not a fucking animal. You're not. And if you go to school, and this is what the bullshit thing is, you go to school and you're like, identify as you meow all day. The teacher can't tell you to get out of their class because it's discrimination. I'm like, you're literally like, this is a school for humans, not for cats. Go to the fucking or doggy daycare. I don't know. I know. If anyone wants to, I'm very one-sided with this, and I acknowledge that. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm right for me. I don't want to make anyone else wrong. But if you question me, if you want to come back to me and justify your reasons why a child, an 8-year-old can identify as a cat, fucking go to town. Please enlighten me because it doesn't make sense. When there's more that I've like your gender identity, it's just there's a whole lot of trauma there. There's a whole lot of shit to unpack. It sucks. It's there's just so much to it, and I don't think we have enough time. We could. There's a whole. I don't know. There's a whole
I
nother
don't
topic.
know enough about it.
I don't know. I might be too offensive on that side. I don't want to offend anyone, but I definitely have strong views. Um, but let's go back to like, yeah, if your kid identifies as an animal, get them therapy, do something because it's not right. Otherwise, birth a cat.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that has come from, but it's yeah,
It's
strange.
kind of just fun. Like if I was to do, actually, I watched this reel and there was this woman. She's American. She's this black woman because paint the picture funny, like just you know how they got that funny tone. And she's like, she's a mum. She's like, this whole like identifying as something. She did this way funnier than me. She's like, you know what? I'm going to join this bandwagon. I want to identify as a tree. When I die, I want to come back as a fucking tree. I want to identify as a tree. I don't want to identify as a mother anymore. Because if I identify as a tree, I just want to chill for a couple of 100 years. And then after that, I'll come back as the fun uncle. But she's like, yeah, I don't. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Because I do identify as a mum. And now I'm like, I don't. There are times where I don't want to fucking identify as a mum. I don't even want to identify as a 30-year-old. I'm like in my 20s still without saggy boobs. And I can still fit into clothes that my stomach can still fit into. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how I want to work this idea. Can we do that? Can I identify as a 22-year-old that just has more wisdom in her face and more money in her bank than when she was 22?
22.
No, I should, yeah. I am triggered. Sorry, look, I am going to apologize if I genuinely have triggered someone, but look, come
Oh,
talk to
look,
me, Chad.
I think part of the desire for me to have this conversation with you um, was because of exactly what I said at the beginning. It's like we're entitled to our own opinions. We have chats, and we that's how you figure things out. Like, but it doesn't mean that you hate on. Well, maybe the cat people.
I don't hate on it. I'm just like, what are you doing? So it's not hate. It's
Yes,
just
yes,
like,
yes.
you know what it is? Makes sense, doesn't make sense. Makes sense, doesn't make sense. To me, I live a life that makes, I want to align with things that make sense to me. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. But also, you're entitled to have that.
Yeah.
Like as I said before, I like sometimes just keep my mouth shut and don't say very much because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
And I totally admire you for having the balls to like actually speak up. And you've got a successful business. You do spend a lot of time online, but you are still able to express what you thought and potentially risk losing.
Yeah. But they were never my people. And you know what? I've been in business for a long time and I was always the kid that talked out of line. Well, did I talk out of line or was I just being my authentic self? But based on the conditioning and the rules when we grew up, I was the one I was outspoken, talked out of line, all of those things. So I've always challenged it. And I was always so insecure. So I hated it because I was like, well, I just want to speak my truth, but I don't want to be hated. And I'd push friends away and all that. And now, you do the personal development, you do the work. I realize things and I learn things about myself. I learn to love myself and accept myself. And I realize if you genuinely don't like what I have to say, you are never going to be my person and our friendship was never going to be authentic. Because even if you were nice to my face and I said, and I was myself, especially after a couple of lines, you would be the one going behind my back bitching about me.
Mm.
So if I lose you, I lose you. If I don't lose you, my best friends, some of my best friends, still my bridesmaids, I got married 6 years ago. Most of them I've been best friends with since high school and they're like, yeah, that's just Kim. I'm sure I pissed them off, but they love me. Actually, Daniel said this, and I think either Caitlin, one of my best friends, Caitlin or Jana, I think it was Daniel, and then I talked to my friends about it, and they're like, yeah, they're like, you're annoying as fuck, but you're lovable. I would trigger based on my thought processes, but I'm lovable. I'm like, ah, you hate to love me. I love it. I've got you in. I've reeled you in.
Well, I think that like one of the things for me that shines through about you is that authenticity, and it's not like you're not just being some brash human that's out there to try and provoke people and like get a rise out of people.
No, fuck no.
This is who I am. This is what I believe in, and take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my hope is that just this episode might make some people feel uncomfortable. I don't know. Hopefully not. But
yeah, I hope it does.
Maybe maybe it was.
Uncomfortable just means like my comfort zone believes that the government has my back. You're saying this makes me uncomfortable, but there'll be a part of it. Either you'll listen, they wouldn't, guys, if you're listening this far, you obviously have enjoyed this because people would, if they didn't like it, they would have fucking, fuck this, she's a crackhead, she can like She's loopy. I'm not listening to her. They would have stopped listening. But it's if you're uncomfortable, it's because your body's telling you like, hey, that could be something, or I do align with that, but my old truths keep me comfortable and safe in here. So uncomfortable. It's just yes, it's stirring the pot because my intention is it's not to stir the pot where you want to cause a rise out of people. It's how about you start questioning? I want to empower you to question things that don't feel aligned, but your brain tells you they're right, and you're in this limbo. And then, if we have the people pleaser gene, which most of us do, for us millennials, Gen Ys, we and Gen X's, we don't want to say anything. Like yourself, perfect example. I'm literally analyzing you. There's a part of you that doesn't want to lose people because the little girl inside of us doesn't always wants to feel loved and accepted. So I don't want to stir the pot and cause shit. And we stay in that space. But if you're okay there, you're okay there. I've been in times where I'm like, I actually fucking have to say something because otherwise I've got inner turmoil or my husband's copied it and he's like, Kim, I'm so fucking sick of hearing the same shit from you. Go talk to that person or go because you're like festering on it because you're scared to like say something. So just go say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something that I think is quite interesting is like you could have a facade, right? Or I'll just call it a facade. Someone sees Kim, she's got this great business, she looks good, she's happily married, got a beautiful child, living the life. And, we paint this picture of you, the same as with me, Nadine. She's so fit and healthy, she's living her best life, doing her podcast, doing all of these things. And then you tell someone something about you that doesn't align with their beliefs, values, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I can like them anymore, or they're not the person I thought they were.
Yeah.
And just like, I just kind of, I don't know if challenge is the right word, but just suggest to people if they have that experience, just ask yourself why. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? Like, can't you just see all of the other things that you saw before?
One of my old coaches said to me once, and this is when Daniel and I were struggling. We're very happy now in comparison to where we've been in the last 3 years. And I think I may have mentioned it on our last podcast where his sister died and became an alcoholic. And
No, I don't know.
maybe we need to do another episode.
Okay.
And we're really good now, but it's been a fucking journey. But my coach, this was a couple of years ago, and she's like, look, if he's triggering you, or you're triggered by him because take ownership, don't blame. Is it a you problem, a him problem, or an us problem? Most of the time when we have that, it's a me problem. Like, so if someone sees Ken and like, oh, she looks all like this, hopefully I don't try and do that too much. I keep as real as I can. But my brand is I am sophisticated, but I'm fun and I am approachable and I want to look good because I fucking feel good when I look good. But I only style my hair like once a month. I need to style my hair. It's like now you can see I'm like, yes, this should last me a week because I'm so fucking lazy with doing it. But you see that where I was like going with this. If I say something that as you said, makes a funny feeling or whatever, I'm like, is it a you problem and is it Kim Ken's problem that you feel that way? Is it your problem or is it between the both of you? Most of the time it's your own problem. Unless I genuinely have been like, Nadine, you're a fucking bitch and I hate your hair and I hate your top. That's a Kim problem, not you. If that upset you, I don't believe any of that, but I was just like looking at you now and like wearing a pink top. So let's pick on that. Do you know what I mean? You just have to ask yourself, is it a you problem, them problem, or together problem?
Yeah.
Then act accordingly and sort your shit out.
Yeah. And yeah.
So,
it's all just about, just a bit more self-acceptance and that, as you said, the Freedom of Information Bill that was being passed and like not being able to express, like, do we want that? Do we really want a situation where we're not allowed to say what
then why the hell? This is what you question. Sorry to cut you off because I'm like, this gets it. Like, why does that need to be a bill in the first place? Why do you think it's now happening? Because they're losing control over us.
Yeah.
Like, ding, ding, ding. And we see a lot of America, obviously we see a lot of Australia. From what I've seen, which, again, because I don't really scroll, like, I know enough, but I don't know enough because I don't want to spend the time trying to find this information. I've got better things to do with my life. But I'm pretty sure, like, it's like Switzerland or one of the European countries, They're like, it's like there's some European countries that aren't being part of this, I guess, higher world order.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone still wants power. There's still power trips and all of that shit. But I think, well, isn't like is it Switzerland the place that there's like no taxes or something? One
Uh,
of those. I don't
not
know. But it's like they're progressive for the people, and it's like the people in control of these countries are actually listening to the people, and they're breaking out of, I just call it high world order, but there's always going to be a high world order. People need to. I have beliefs on this, and this you might think I'm loony, and this is probably major conspiracy, but I'm like that with the aliens, there's connection to our outer source, outer life. There's a reason why people have needed to have, like the high world order needed to have control over us, because us humans as a being, we're very powerful. So let's dumb everyone down and condition them all and keep them
uh,
doing the do and be worker people. Like there's all of that thought, and it just doesn't surprise me. But I don't know enough. There's a lot out there. I know enough, but I don't know enough.
yeah.
To what I can say, I could be like, it could be complete nonsense. But to me, I'm like, I would explore that. Wouldn't surprise me if that's true, Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. And we're all having our own experience as well, right? So every single person on the planet's perspective is different, and but we're all contributing towards the whole.
Yes.
That's the way that I try and see it. So when I see someone and that I don't really resonate with, I just think they're having their own
Yeah.
experience of 3D life or whatever.
3D life. That's what they're meant. That's what they're here to experience, and that's their
That's
level.
their purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was like for an hour. I feel like I could keep going, but
We have to save it for another one. Um, Thank you so much. I've really appreciated this. I think we just about peace and love and harmony, really, ultimately, right?
yes, the ultimate thing is love. Love is duality.
Love,
Love is
acceptance.
you, love. Like love, it's not love and hate. It's hate and and like and dislike. But love is the unconditional love, not
Mm,
conditional love. Everything is about unconditional love, and our soul's purpose is to unconditionally love. And that's why we can have certain people in our lives and things in our lives that super trigger us. But it's like, how can I unconditionally love this? Stay in my power,
mm.
my own power. So yeah, that's what I want. I want people to question everything, come from unconditional love, have unconditional love for themselves. It's easier said than done, but
Done, for sure.
it's part of the journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you. I love our chats, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.